as if more proof were possibly needed that our economy is in dire need of immediate and massive help, look no further than the great state of North Carolina, where not once but twice this week, the sheer number of people seeking unemployment benefits crashed the state's website. In New York as well, the state employment hotline crashed after getting more than 10,000 calls per hour. Eek. And today we're learning it's only getting worse. The Fed is now predicting that the GDP will fall in 2009. That is a number you really don't want to ever go down. They're also predicting that unemployment will rise, quote, significantly into next year. President-elect Obama says his solution to this problem is to act swiftly and boldly. He's pushing a $775 billion economic stimulus package, complete with a $300 billion middle-class tax cut. He first said he wanted the legislation by Obama administration day one, January 21st. Now he says, okay, maybe early February. Now, while Congress say they say they're not even sure it will happen until mid-February. This means that we're getting into policy territory here that may still qualify as bold, depending on what they pass, but it definitely doesn't look very swift. How bad will it be if this plan isn't passed and passed quickly? Well, as Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman put it, quote, here's my nightmare scenario. It takes Congress months to pass a stimulus plan, and the legislation that actually emerges is too cautious. As a result, the economy plunges for most of 2009, and when the plan finally starts to kick in, it's only enough to slow the descent, not stop it. So we're living Krugman's nightmare already? At least the start of it? Why is this thing moving slower and slower, not faster and faster? One possible answer lies in what an Obama strategist told Politico's Mike Allen, quote, Obama wants to get 80 or more votes in the 100-member Senate. And the emphasis on tax cuts is a way to diffuse conservative criticism and enlist Republican support. Do you care whether the Save the Economy thing passes by 80 votes or not? Would you trade whatever marginal satisfaction lots of votes would give you, lots of extra votes would give you for the thing passing a month earlier? I really need to be talked down on this. Here to try is Dean Baker, who is co-director of the Center for Economic and Policy Research. Thanks very much for coming on the show, Mr. Baker.
Thanks a lot for having me on.
Here's your chance to talk me down. Tell me it doesn't matter that they might be moving more slowly than expected on the stimulus here.
Well, I can't tell you it doesn't matter. What we have to hope is that they don't move too much more slowly, and what we have to hope is that they come up with a big package that's focused primarily on spending, and it's not too far into President Obama's administration. It's not a done deal yet.
Why does speed matter with this stimulus package, and how fast do you think they should be moving?
Well, they should have been moving yesterday. Speed matters because the economy is going down real quickly. We lost 530,000 jobs in November. We're probably going to lose at least as many in December. January looks horrible. Every month we delay, that's more people out of work, and this downward spiral goes further. So they should have done something. It's a shame they could have done something even while President Bush was still in office. Presumably, they'd have agreed to something. So speed matters.
Why do you say that it matters that it is focused on spending as opposed to on tax cuts?
Well, this isn't a matter of ideology. There's a lot of evidence on this. People save tax cuts, particularly given the current environment. People have just lost all their savings in the stock market, in their house. They have to rebuild their savings. If we send people a check, they're likely to save much of it. That's good for them, but it's bad for the economy. We need spending right now, and we know if the government spends it on weatherizing homes, redoing infrastructure, whatever it might be, that gives a direct boost to the economy. That's what we need now.
That said, nobody wants another set of regrets like everybody has about TARP. Is there a case to be made that they maybe should go more slowly, more deliberately, because they could screw up if they go too fast?
Well, there's two things to keep in mind. We don't want things that are absolutely harmful. So I just wrote a piece on this a few days ago. We don't want to build highways to facilitate sprawl. So we can knock that out, though. That's relatively easy to see that, these are things that we're going to regret, a year, 2, 3 years down the road. On the other hand, if we have things that are somewhat wasteful, better to be somewhat wasteful than have more people be unemployed. So if we have this standard, everything has to be spent in the best possible way, Paul Krugman would be absolutely right. We're going to be sitting here another year figuring out how to spend it. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate is going to go into the double-digit territory.
Economically, you're an economist. Do you give an economist's hoot if it's an 80-vote margin passing this thing instead of a 60-vote margin?
We need something done. I mean, I understand the idea of being bipartisan, getting Republican support, that's great, but you have to get the policy done. You have to get the economy going again. If he gets 80 votes and doesn't get the economy going, no one's going to give him any credit for it.
So the trade-off of 80 votes 3 months from now, or 60 votes, or even 51 votes in a few weeks, you'd take the 51 votes in a few weeks?
Exactly. Get the policy in place, get the economy going. That's what we're going to appreciate.
Concretely, in terms of what is ultimately funded, are you worried about the ideology here? Are you worried that the package could lose too many of its key items, the things that would be most economically important, if there are concessions made during negotiations? At what point should the new president just say, enough, pass it, I'm not going to talk to you about it?
Well, again, the question will be whether he's got enough there to really boost the economy. If you have to throw a few bones and that gets you 10, 15, 20 Republican votes in the Senate, that's fine. We could do that. That's politics. But on the other hand, if you've given away hundreds of billions in tax cuts of relatively little impact, and that those go to the highest income people in the country, as the Republicans always seem to want, then that has to be no deal. We had an election. They lost, you know, so they have an option. We could give them input, but they lost the election. It's President Obama's call here, and he'd make a big mistake to act as though they won the election.
The elections have consequences theme is resonating a lot tonight. Dean Baker from the Center for Economic and Policy Research, thank you for trying and totally failing to talk me down tonight.
I'll try again another time. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Thanks, Dean.